You're listening to CEO Global Podcast, where our focus
is on developing servant leaders of integrity.
Our vision is to raise up leaders of character who serve
and add value to their spheres of influence.
To produce dynamic leaders, we develop the whole person by cultivating servanthood,
building integrity,
and facilitating personal transformation.
And now, let's begin today's podcast interview.
Welcome to the CEO Global Podcast. I'm your guest host, Ella Jane Dantzler. Today's interview is with Derek Champagne, founder and CEO of The Artist Evolution, a successful full-service marketing agency founded in 2007. He is a thought leader in marketing, guest lecturer, and best-selling author of Don't Buy a Duck, How to Stop Wasting Money and Only Do Marketing That Works. Derek hosts the Business Leadership Series, an ESPN radio show and podcast with guests from hit TV shows such as ABC's Shark Tank and The Profit. Welcome to our program, Derek.
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your position and what you do at your company.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of the company, The Artist Evolution. We are a full-service marketing agency, and we work with clients from startups to household names that you've probably heard of, and help them around the country in building their brands, and then we build strategic campaigns, and we help them manage their campaigns as well.
Cool. What is the most rewarding part about what you do?
Well, we love helping clients. We love building things. I'm a creative at heart, and most of my background has been in music and the creative side of things. So I love to help businesses build things. So I get the cool opportunity of actually tinkering with and helping brands from the ground up, and then some existing brands if they need to adjust their creative. So the most rewarding part is really that I get to all day long work on tinkering with other people's creativity and with helping them launch their brands, and that's one of my favorite things to do.
So you were a guest speaker recently for CEO Global talking about servant leadership. You're also a guest speaker talking about trust and integrity coming up at our fall retreat. How did you originally get connected with CEO Global?
Yeah, I love CEO Global. It's been impactful for me since I met them earlier. I think it was earlier this year, actually, earlier 2016. And we were actually doing an interview on our podcast, the Business Leadership Series, with Henry Ho, who is a rock star leader. He's involved in CEO Global. He's a great entrepreneur, a great leader, and he's a co-founder of Field Agent, which is a revolutionary tech app company that works with vendors and Walmart and things like that as far as crowdsourcing. So Henry came as a guest, and then he mentioned that he wanted to put me in contact with Jonathan from CEO Global, and I didn't know what all that entailed, but I said, hey, that sounds interesting. I'd love to help out. And Henry is a connector. He's just one of those great people who knows how to connect others or connect people together. And so when Jonathan and some of his team reached out, it ended up being from me just learning more about it, to helping with a kind of with some mentoring to end up being a speaker. So they sent me the Servant Leadership Series topic, and that's how it started for me earlier this year.
What has your experience been like so far interacting with the different topics, the program and the students and everything?
It's been really amazing. I've been really impressed with the global impact that CEO Global, as in the name, has had with students around the world. To be able to meet the students, first of all, who come in to come to this program in the U.S. When they don't have to be there. Some of them are there in the summertime, in the fall, when others are going out of town, and they're there on a weekend, committed to learning. I was impressed at those who were mentoring. I felt inadequate being there, seeing these leaders from some large organizations who were there giving their time, volunteering it in these small groups. So it's really cool to see that there's amazing speakers talking about amazing topics, and the program's really well written and really well executed. It's a world-class team. But then also to see these groups, there's breakout sessions, and there's all these, I think, 8 or 10 tables of students with these rock star mentors who are taking their time and investing in them throughout the whole semester. So it's really, really cool, powerful program that I was really honored and blessed to even be considered to be a part of.
So when you spoke on tapping into the hidden power of servant leadership, can you tell us a little bit about what servant leadership means to you personally and the impact it has had on your leadership style?
Yeah, and I'll start by saying that I speak a lot, so I'm comfortable lecturing. And when Jonathan and when their group first approached me, I said, you know what, I may be a better fit to be a mentor and kind of ease into this a little bit, because I started looking at the topics, and it's all leadership. And yes, we have our Business Leadership Series, but that's me on a quest to learn how to be a better leader. I'm a student. Right. I'm a student of being a better leader. I have been since I was a kid. I've always just been fascinated with trying to learn as much as I can. Not that I've done it well, but I'm just fascinated to learn. And So when they started showing me the topics, it was things like servant leadership, and I just said I might be better to sit and learn, and I'll be a mentor because I'm a leader. But I'm used to teaching doctors, 1,000, 2,000 doctors about marketing 101 or social media, and I can talk for 4 hours, 8 hours, 2 days, comfortable talking about marketing. But when you start putting a microscope on talking about things like servant leadership, it just felt like something that scared me a little bit. And so they still encouraged me to do it anyway. And so I started reading the material, and honestly, it was a self-reflection for me. And looking internally, I went to our operations manager, Kim, and while I was studying the materials that I was going to teach, and I said, Kim, I think we've got some stuff that we need to work on.
Yeah.
And this is hitting me pretty powerfully. And it was the things that we're looking at. Just really one of the biggest things for me is I never intended to be a leader. I've always been promoted in positions I've been in. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life. I've sang music and played in front of thousands of people at a time. I've taught to people, but I never really said I want to be a leader. Some people intentionally want to be a leader.
Right.
Now I want to be a better leader than I am, but I really feel like I woke up one day and all of a sudden I had a team I was leading as far as in the role I'm in now. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur and tinker with things and grow them, but wasn't really intentionally thinking, if you're going to tinker with things and grow things and progress in life, you're going to be leading people.
Right.
And so the big thing with CEO Global that's been interesting about the servant leadership category is talking about, even if you think you're not leading anybody, you're leading yourself. And then that kind of expanded on what kind of influence are you having on those around you. And so it's been really, for me, a big learning thing. I'm writing an article right now about micro-influence, about influencing people on the smallest level, your interaction with, and that's all stemmed from the servant leadership series that made me reflect earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about how your interactions with the person at the grocery store or at the gas station or any small moment that you have an opportunity to make meaningful eye contact and relationships with people appropriately. Why you're missing those when you're on your phone or when you're self-absorbed. So really is how do you expand your influence as a leader, even if you think you're only leading yourself?
Right.
So some of the topics for me that were challenging are, I'm a type A. I like to make decisions, and I like to not necessarily lead from the top down, but I'm pretty confident in my decisions that I make. And if I've shared something, I probably have 10 pages on strategy of all the possible outcomes. And so I'm pretty confident, and I have a good context. I've made good and bad decisions, but generally I'm pretty self-confident. So for me, this servant leadership has showed me as well to do better empowering my team, to make them successful, to trust them, to allow them the opportunity to succeed and fail, and then to provide them with the resources. And then the biggest thing for me was to be willing to step out of the way. Right. If somebody can run my company better than I can, or run divisions and departments. So that's the long answer to how powerful servant leadership has been for me. And it's been such a quest for me that in our own leadership series, I ask that often now too, what does servant leadership look like to you?
Right.
Because it's such a powerful question in the whole world of leadership. So.
You talk sometimes about the potential relationship between failure and success. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Yeah, when I wrote a book earlier this year, and I started doing a podcast tour, and I was getting on some pretty well-known business podcasts of people that I really looked up to, and it seems like the question that I commonly got asked is, tell us about some times that you failed. And we don't like to talk about failure. It's something that we like to have more wins than losses, and we try to hide. But for me, it was another big aha moment of really looking into the times that you failed and learning from them. And I've done well in some businesses, and I've failed at others. I had a business venture earlier this year that failed, and it stung and it hurt. And I wrote that Huffington Post article based out of that experience of almost a healing moment, like 3 a.m, just sitting there typing out on my phone going, so what does this look like? What did I learn from it? Because it hurt. Right. It was painful, but we lost money, and my pride. And my team saw that we had to shift things, and it hurt. But I learned from it. So I think failure, as long as you're learning, I think failure is an important part of the journey to success and to being a well-rounded person that can make decisions that enable yourself and your team and your family and those around you to be more successful. It kind of gives you context as long as you're learning from it. So failure is okay. And obviously we want to win more than we lose, but right. I think failure is an important part of the journey. And I call them scars. And I have several scars, and those scars are a reminder for me of what I learned in those failures.
Right. So what does success look like to you then? How would you define it?
This is something that I get asked often, and it's something I ask our guests on our podcast often too, is because success, and this is okay, success means different things to different people, and they should, depending on where we're from, what our goals are, it's going to. But I'll tell you, for me, it's been important because me growing up, I grew up on a dirt road. I grew up with not a lot of resources. There were lots of kids in the family, and we didn't have a lot. We stretched things, and we wasted not, and so for me, always success, I thought early on, was about having the things that you want and having
financial.
Yes, and I wasn't obsessed with having all the stuff, but I still wanted to make sure I had financial security and that I could do more with my kids than I did. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I think my parents were rock star parents, and they actually set me up the right way for myself.
Yeah.
As I've gone older and I've worked hard and I've started to have my needs met and have a happy family and a nice house and a nice car and the business is going well, that's all great to a certain point. I remember talking to some kids at the University of Arkansas recently and just saying that makes you happy to a certain point, but then what? I really feel like success is having peace and being in a position where you can help other people. I really, at the end of the day, feel like that's the most important. If your needs aren't met, it's hard to do that. So you do want to be successful in a way that you can take care of yourself and eat.
Right.
And help those that are less fortunate around you and take
back.
care of your team. Right. And take care of your family. And you know, if there's a house and things like that you want, that's great. But success really is about having peace and about being able to be an active member in your community where you're a contributing member of that community to make the whole community better.
Right.
I really do feel that. And I didn't used to think that. I might have said it, but I really, truly believe that now. And it's exciting to get to a point where you do have some of the other successes so you're in a position to do that.
Right.
So, and again, it looks different for everybody, but when your needs are met and you can reasonably take care of your family and those around you, that's what success really looks like.
Right.
And having balance. Balance is important too, I think, because if you are focused too much on one thing, you're going to end up being weaker in the other areas. So
yeah. Okay. So what advice do you have to our listeners who are looking to grow as leaders?
I think it's first of all, programs like CEO Global obviously are powerful. Podcasts like this are great to learn from leaders, not myself, but from others who are going to be on this program that I know are amazing leaders. It's just a great opportunity to plug in and absorb as much as you can from those that are willing to share advice with you. I also recommend, so in addition to doing programs like CEO Global, I recommend finding those who either are like-minded with you or who have been successful in the areas that you want to be successful. That's a decision a thing that I've had to do in my life. My lifelong friends are my lifelong friends, and I saw them this weekend. And some of them are in the same path that I am and others aren't, and that's okay. I love the diversity of that. But I also have made a decision over the last decade to find people that are doing it on a way higher level than I would ever have dreamed possible. And it's surprising. You might be surprised at those who would of those people who would give you their time, because they truly understand that it's their turn to give back and to teach you. And if you come from the right place, then you can hang around with leaders who are world class and will take the time to nurture you.
Right.
When you start thinking like they do, your goals change, and you start to see opportunity in a different way, and it just changes your connections, it changes your outlook, and it sometimes opens doors and connections for you to go towards that direction. If you don't, it's difficult to do that. But otherwise, it's people dreaming that are without the connection. So find leaders who have done it. In the path that you want to take, and just absorb from them as much as you can.
Right. Those other servant leaders who are willing to give back on their time.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's cool to see how that works. So what's coming up next for you?
Next for me with CEO Global is we have in a couple of weeks, we have a trust and integrity course that we're doing at New Life Ranch, which is really cool. It's actually a great place to do it because they have these rope courses and zip lines and all the fun stuff. So I'm bringing my family there with me, so we can have a day of fun, and then we're gonna all have dinner together, and then all learn about trust and integrity.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you so much. I appreciate CEO Global, and it's made a big impact for me, and I love what's happening for students around the world that are plugging into this program.
Yep. All right. Thank you for tuning in to the CEO Global podcast. Be sure to visit www.ceoglobalusa.org to continue the conversation with us. Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next week.
You've been listening to CEO Global Podcast,
where our focus is on developing servant leaders of integrity.